Hi, this is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief. You're listening to thisweekingeek.net. Finish the fight.
And now it's time for another special feature.
Pickle.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it. These babies just saved this lame fest party.
What's going on? You are listening to thisweekingeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. And well, guys, we are getting down to the wire here at TWIG as things are starting to wind down as we are preparing for our annual holiday gift guides. And that means we are doing a lot of work here at TWIG. We also have the annual Game Awards that are going to be hosted by good old friend Jeff in Los Angeles in just a couple of weeks. Nominations are now closed, but you can do voting, I believe, for a little while longer, as far as I know. I'm currently preparing a TTRPG focus holiday gift guide. You'll be able to find that on December 5th. And then me and Alex will have a show out for you December 12th, which will be our final holiday gift guide. Alex may have some additional stuff later on. And then TWIG is on holidays until the end of January because I got a lot of gaming I want to play and I want to watch a lot of Star Trek. So anyway, so why are we here today? Well, I love to do interviews, and a good friend of the show reached out to us, and her name is Jessica. She's one of the PR reps we've had a chance to work with over the last little while, and she pitched an interesting game to me. She pitched a game called Sanatorium, a Mental Asylum Simulator, done by a small team of developers from over in Europe. This was part of a thesis project, and it involves mental health. And just before I go any further, we're going to talk about some pretty heavy stuff today, so trigger warning. But then again, as you guys know, over the course of the show since 2007, I have not been shy about sharing my own mental health journey as someone who is a diagnosed bipolar 2 with severe depression. I have had my own mental health struggles over the years. So when Jessica pitched this to me, this definitely caught my attention. I don't see many games that deal with gamifying mental health, but in a fairly respectful way. So what this game is, it kind of puts you in the shoes of a failed journalist. Don't I know that vibe in the 1920s. And well, you're out there to solve a mystery, but in order to do so, you have to infiltrate this sanitarium, Castle Woods, under an assumed identity. And well, you have to blend in. That means you got to be talking to patients. You got to be prescribing treatments. You're going to help people, but you also have to get to the bottom of the mystery as to what's happened to a family member of yours. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Sebastian and Fabian to the show. Guys, welcome aboard.
Hi. Hi,
yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, guys, this is a very interesting idea for a game. So this game is available on Steam right now, and you guys launched earlier this month to mixed reviews currently, but we will get to that eventually. But you guys have taken a very interesting approach to mental health. So obviously this is a very heavy subject, and now that we are in an era where mental health seems like we're having open conversations about it, we're asking the questions more like, are you okay, and genuinely meaning it. So how long had this project been in development, and what was the where did you guys get the idea to develop a game based around, well, mental health and how to treat it?
Well, Originally, it was my graduation project during our studies. So we both met at the university, Zurich University of the Arts, and studied game design there. And this was my graduation project. I kind of always wanted to do something like maybe a job simulator, you could call it. And if you play the game, you also see that some parts are also inspired by a lot of other games, so like Papers, Please, for example, where you have the rule book and you judge people by the rule book. And the original thought was, okay, how could we do that in an interesting setting where maybe the rules change a lot, or where what we see today as something is viewed differently in the past, and that's how we came for the whole theme of psychiatry and psychology, because we had a lot of developments there in the last 100 years. I mean, it takes place 100 years ago, so a lot of this changing the rules or how we view things are very obvious to today's audience.
So sorry, I'm not sure whether I introduced you to as Sebastian and Fabian from Zeitglas Games. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
So again, when you were like kind of doing this through the lens of 100 years ago, obviously the field of mental health has gone through a tremendous transformation with new psychiatry and therapeutic kind of protocols being done, and talk therapy being a big thing. But obviously back in the 1920s, things were, I wouldn't call it barbaric, but things were changing. Obviously, one of the ways that your game describes it, it's kind of a card-based system that you have to assess where treatments are coming from, what is causing this. Is it like a learned behavior? Is it something causing like a reflex issues? All sorts of psychiatry words I don't really understand, but I kind of get now that it's been gamified. When you were doing the research for this, how did you guys go about that? Like, who did you guys talk to, and what other sorts of resources did you talk to? Like, did you talk to other people in the field who had maybe been affected by this, or did you look at historical records? Basically, where did the research start for something so ambitious?
One part was, so the original project started in 2020, right before the pandemic. So, and right before that, I was able to talk to the curator of the Museum of Psychiatry in Bern. That's like the university clinic that has also a museum about their clinic there. And was able to talk with him already with the concept in mind, and just get some feedback on the concept. And then of course, or in my case, during the development of the project, we also had some experiences from close family members who had a stay at a clinic that the name of the sanatorium Castle Woods is also inspired by a clinic that we have around Zurich. So our studio is based in Zurich, and you have two big clinics around the lake with the beautiful panorama view. They also already existed 100 years ago, and a lot of the famous or today famous people in psychiatry were at some point spent some time there. And also the close family member also had a stay there to like also reground them or have some opportunity to get better, or at least yeah.
Mm-hmm. So over the course of, like I said, doing your research, okay, so you've got your research, you've got the history, you know what to base the game on. So tell me the story of how did you decide the gameplay loop? How did you design the narrative for something like this? Because, like, to give you an example how I looked at this feels very Call of Cthulhu-esque. And what I mean by that is it deals with, like, mental health and people going nuts. And I don't mean that to be derogatory, but sort of mental health affecting you in a very dramatic way. So that was my first experience with like mental health, was learning it through Call of Cthulhu as like a different kind of doorway to this. But having you guys deal with it in a unique gameplay loop, how was that developed?
Lovecraft was an inspiration for the environment of the sanatorium. So this kind of fits. But it's basically the card game mechanic came along with and diving into the topic. Like you have this different treatments and symptoms, and how can we display that in the how can you face the patient in the game. And this led to the idea that it's like a file with the cards inside, and that you have to fight the cards with the cards that you can choose with your deck that you built. That was kind of the main inspiration for the game mechanics.
Yeah, but we're also always very clear that we don't see it as or it doesn't really work like a traditional deck builder. So the cards are really just the best way we could have done the representation of some of the stuff in the game. What was very early on there was the phrenology chart. So you have to sort the symptoms into regions on a phrenology chart. Phrenology was a pseudoscience back in the day that was also the basis for lobotomy, that assigned to the specific regions along the skulls. It was really based on the skull shapes of people, some different attributes, so that you could read people's psychological attributes just based on the shape of their skulls. And later that was extended to say, okay, in this exact region, this exact thing happens. And this was also an experience with the curator of the museum. He's also a professor for psychiatry, so a physician professor, but also with a specialization in psychiatry, that he criticizes a lot of the modern imaging techniques as well, because this idea of, okay, we can exactly pinpoint where something is happening in our brains or physically, and connect it directly to ailments. It's what we now know is a lot more complicated than that.
When you started dealing with some of the more, as you just mentioned, complicated ailments, symptoms, and syndromes, how hard was it to translate some of the more complicated mental health disorders into a card-based thing? Because it seems a lot harder than, like, I don't know, something like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, for example. It's not just as easy as Charizard attacks for this. You guys have to learn how to diagnose this, how to put this around. So, like, how was translating this into the gameplay loop? Like, just that seems really hard.
We not only translated or modern ideas of different syndromes or diagnoses or ailments. So we show them as how people 100 years ago would probably have called them. So some of the names are, for example, the syndromes are more put together names for things, stuff like hysteria, for example, that was a long time used to diagnose all sorts of women for all sorts of abnormal, in big quotation marks, behavior. And so all the cards you have in the game are always already through this lens of what the current institution where you work in the sanatorium thinks is the cause. So you already have like the lens prepared that you have to look at things, and then the only window into the patient itself is what they maybe tell you.
When you were putting this together, and again, having your gameplay loop and all your research, what were some of the more difficult things to put together? Because you guys do some pretty significant mental health challenges in this game. And how did you approach that with respect?
Well, I think in general we don't make fun of the patients, but of the institution. So it always is about how the institution treated or how they looked at the at the people and not the patients themselves. So we don't really, I mean, you can't really harm them. You can just play cards, and the only thing the only feedback you get is a little sound effect or something, but you can't like you can't harm the patients and kind of repeat it to make fun out of it. So that was our basic idea, that it's always about, if something is bad, it always should like put the institution in focus and not the patient. Also, there's no blood, there's no nothing like that. It's just words and the little sound effects. I think that was very important, that we don't laugh about the patients in the institution.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I did like is how you guys have the institution like as a character itself. You have somebody watching your progress, making sure you're treating, like I said, the patients with dignity and respect, and you're kind of scored at the end of each week. I will say this, during my first playthrough, I didn't make it very far and I got busted and thrown in the sanitarium. So whoops.
Yeah. That's the one part. You have this, or that's one of the base conflicts that's different or difficult, maybe, where it also really comes out, because you as a person, or you as a person of the 21st century, has a different view for a lot of very basic things. And what's also important that we wanted to show is that when you start out, one of the first word that you have is it's the 1920s, so you have prohibition, and the first word is rehabilitation. And you find out pretty soon that the sanatorium is struggling a bit because you don't have any more rehab patients for rehabilitation or in the rehabilitation ward. And so you're left with a few people as patients there. And another important thing that we kind of wanted to show in the game is that whenever there is a mental asylum in games, it's usually that the patients are also dangerous and you have to like navigate the whole thing. But that's not really the case, or that's not even the case today, that that you have so many people that need to be isolated from society. That's much more a problem in some instances, or in later wards on the sanatorium. You'll notice that it's much more a problem of the society than of the people there, because you don't really have that many patients where you would not understand what it was always that the patient's biography and dialogue should always make sense and be relatable to some extent for people.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I actually really appreciated about this, because there's one of the treatments that you're given in your deck, and it's isolation, and it's like you're going to put someone away in a straitjacket. Now, obviously, me looking through the lens of the 21st century modern, I'm like, I don't want to do that to somebody. And I'm thinking that might work at some point, because again, just the era when this game took place. But I like how I was thinking like three-dimensionally, thinking, all right, how would I approach this? So yeah, it's a lot of unique problem solving. Like I said, I've never been into deck building games, but I found this a little bit more engaging than what I originally kind of thought, because like this is not my typical jam for sort of things. And it's sort of like, obviously I didn't make it very far, but now it's like, we're going to try that again. And I like how it's encouraging me to go back and figure it out. So one of the other things that I want to talk to you guys about as we begin to kind of wrap things up here. So there's been a lot of feedback that has been on Steam, and you guys, I would love to know, what are your future plans to support the game and integrate feedback from some of the users on Steam?
Yeah, we're continuing, or the original feedback was, of course, connected to some of the issues that we had at launch concerning bugs, and yeah, we have continued to touch it and to make it better. There is 1 or 2 things that will come out in the next few weeks, I hope, that change the what a lot of people criticize, that you could not keep everything that you have currently in your head, and that you maybe need some overview. So we're working on that, and hope to get something out there the next week or next few weeks. And also continue to better support the platforms like Steam Deck and so on to optimize it in that aspect. In the future, maybe to expand the endless mode even a bit more, or to add some new upgrade cards, so that we are pretty flexible with our system or with the game itself. And we have a lot of people on our Discord, in our Discord community that we talk to, and also have some people who were very dedicated and gave more feedback, or very in-depth feedback. We call them research assistants, and we always listen to the player input. That now that we have a very wide audience playing the game.
Are there any plans to port this game to other consoles, such as, like, say, the Switch 2 or the Xbox or PlayStation 5?
We don't know that at the moment. As I explained before, we're a 2-man dev team at the moment, or we had some additional helps and freelancers and so on, but I cannot really say where we will go next after the release here. So it's still open, or we're open for it, and we're open for the option for different platforms. Yeah.
I gotta say, I did like how the game could almost be played in spits and spurts, because it is a deck building game. One of my first thoughts, actually, while I was playing, like, you know what? If I had smaller cases, especially how you have the endless mode, I could kind of see myself playing this to kill time, actually, on my phone or on my Switch too. So just saying, consider other platforms. I think that might be kind of fun. But no, seriously, guys, thank you for taking time out of your exceptionally busy time. As I know the holidays are approaching, you've got patches to work on. I can't imagine developing a game as a 2-person team. I can barely put together a like invite on my Google Calendar. Don't ask. I'm terrible at it. It literally takes multiple people to show me. But yeah, seriously, Sebastian, Fabian, thank you for taking time out of your exceptionally busy day. I sincerely appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have a chance to check in more on the Sanatorium as you guys do more projects in the future.
Sanatorium,
sorry. I'm losing my mind. Treatment.
Yeah. That's also a funny story behind that name. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, guys, this was a lot of fun. All right, guys, so that was my interview with the devs behind Sanatorium, a mental asylum simulator. Like I said, go check this game out on Steam. Like I said, it may have mixed reviews, but I think as things gets passed and the team continues to work on it, I really think there's something interesting here. Like I said, I've never encountered a game that tackled the subject matter with a reasonable degree of respect. There's actually a couple of these things. I'm actually going to talk to my sister-in-law, who's a nurse practitioner in one of the local health boards here. But like, hey, I learned a new word today. What does this mean? And this means I can actually talk to a health professional as opposed to going to Dr. Google. But you can't trust them because it's a machine. But anyway, like I said, me and Alex have a lot of stuff to do on the site this week. So we've got holiday gift guides coming up. The last show of the year, the last live news show, should be taking place, I want to say, next week with me and Alex. And then it's going to be holiday gift guide stuff, specials. I'm working with Adam, Dave, and Ken to do some additional stuff for Loose Cannon. I did promise we would be doing a Loose Cannon specials on the Lord of the Rings movies. So we're going to try and get those out one a week during the holidays. So I do get a holiday ish, but I will hopefully be taking a break till I said watch some Star Trek, play some games, and hopefully get some more TTRPG time in with my good old buddies at the Dungeons and Dragons groups that I work with. And either way, it's going to be a good time here on Twig, and also stuff with Earth versus Soup with Aaron and Darlene. I should have an interview with Aaron regarding his new TTRPG game Redacted at some point soon, as soon as I get schedules locked down. But anyway, guys, I'm going to take off here. So once again, thank you for joining. Be sure to check out the Steam link below to check out this game. And until next time, folks, I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.